So the project on hand today is a thermostat replacement on this 2005 Prius, second gen Toyota Prius. And pretty much what I was seeing is on the very, very cold days, like under 30 degrees or so, my coolant temperatures would never hit 180 degrees, which is the OEM temperature thermostat opening temperature. But anyways, when it was really cold out, I would not get very good heat out of the vents. Unfortunately, Toyota Priuses, don't have a temperature gauge on the dashboard. It's all, I don't think it has much of anything except maybe like an overheat light. But if you have Torque Pro, which is what I was using on the Android phone, I could monitor my coolant temperatures, and I was seeing that it was only getting to about 140 degrees. It might hit 150, but that's really only if I was pushing the Prius fairly hard. So, like I said, the OEM temperature for a thermostat is 180 degrees. So it wasn't anywhere near that. I know on a very cold day, the engine itself loses heat. So even if the thermostat's fully closed, you can still lose heat and not quite hit the 180 degree mark. But it definitely should be closer to 180 degrees than what I was getting. 140 is pretty cold. So what I have is I got a Stant thermostat and a funnel kit, and I highly recommend the funnel kit. This will be my first time using it, but from what I see, it's very, very handy, and I'm just tired of struggling with a regular plastic funnel and spilling coolant everywhere and having air bubbles in the system. So let's get started. So here's what we have. It's a Lyle 24680 spill-free funnel kit. We'll see how well this works. But from what I've seen online, it's a pretty handy tool to have. And of course, the Stant thermostat. Stant and Gates make pretty good cooling system products like thermostats and radiator caps. But if if you don't like aftermarket parts, you can definitely go with OEM. OEM was like maybe 20 bucks, and this was maybe 10 bucks. But it's all fairly easy to replace. So even if this is a failed unit, or fails 5-10 years down the road, I can easily replace it. And where I will be working today is down in the engine bay. You can see the lower radiator hose right there, and the clamp, and the thermostat is right behind that hose, right in that area. So first things first, jack up the car. All jacked up. And this will have to be removed, this plastic shielding, to get to the funnel later down the road. So you may as well remove that right now. Just a couple of these screw plastic pins, take those out. And now we will be going below the car and draining the coolant off. So when I take off that lower hose, it doesn't puke coolant everywhere. All right, so this splash shield has to come off. Looks like a couple of 10s. And right there. And what's behind this splash shield is the drain, which you will see shortly. So let me take that splash shield off. All right, so there we go right there. There's the drain valve on this cooling system. Splash shield just kind of tucked out of the way. And now to drain it. All right, so everything is drained from that drain thing down there. And I could not get this clamp off to save my life. So what I had to do is I just undid the two 10 mil nuts holding the plastic housing onto the block. And I don't know if you can see that at all, but there's the thermostat down there. I'm gonna be taking it off here in just a second. All right, so it's kind of been a battle, but got the thermostat out. You can see that's where it came out of. I had to take the radiator hose off the radiator so I could get it out and cut the old clamp off, because that clamp on the thermostat housing side was pretty messed up. Toyota has those weird locking clamps, and I don't know, I suppose there's a tool for it, but if that little tab does not go into that top piece and then slide down to lock, you'll never open this thing up enough to get the hose off. So that was a bit of a detour there. But like I said, got the hose off, got the housing off, got the thermostat out. So the old ring on the outside looks fine, but the thermostat right here, you can kind of see how it's kind of weird looking. Like right there and right there, like the rubber is a little bulged out. You know, maybe the spring has lost its tension and it's opening up at a lower temperature. 82 degrees Celsius. But anyways, time to start buttoning things up. Alright, so here's the new thermostat. 82 degrees Celsius as well. 180 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is pretty much it. This is what you put in, and there's this jiggle valve here. And you just want to make sure that jiggle valve is facing upwards. So just slot it in with that valve facing upwards and bolt the plastic thermostat housing back on. Alright, so the thermostat is in, plastic housing is bolted on and snug, and the radiator hose put on with new worm clamps. I should probably get some T-bolt clamps for the radiator hose, but perhaps that's something for down the line. But anyways, looks like the coolant system is all buttoned up. At this point, make sure your drain valve is tight, and we can start adding coolant. Alright, so that filler thing is on. And you just fill up your coolant, squeeze the lower radiator hose, try and burp out as much of that air as possible. And once you've gotten a good portion of your coolant in, you can go ahead and start the vehicle, and that heating will heat up the coolant in the block, which will open up the thermostat and allow coolant to flow through the whole system. Alright, so here we are, coolant sitting at 203. A little on the warm side, but not bad. But we are burping coolant. Yeah, gradually it's burping. I'm guessing the Prius takes a little bit more time just because the coolant has to route through the whole hybrid drive system, as well as the little thermos reservoir down there that we drained from. As you can see, like there's coolant even all the way up to here. So it's working on it. It's moving coolant through. Alright, so coolant bleeding is done. Essentially what I did was just let it run and burp out all the air bubbles, squeeze the upper and lower hose a little bit to help push the air out. Let the car get up to operating temperature, which 180 degrees with this thermostat. And for the Prius, you need to cycle the car on and off a few times, because if you notice, when you turn the Prius off, there's like that pump noise, and that's the pump, a coolant pump pumping coolant into a kind of like a thermos reservoir to help with cold starts in the future. And you know, of course, that's not going to be running when you're running your car, so you have to cycle the car on and off a few times to get that filled up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think the coolant is pretty much burped at this point. There may be a few small pockets of air that'll make its way out into the reservoir, and then I'll just top the coolant overflow reservoir off as needed. But yeah, I mean, this job was fairly straightforward. Just the clamps were giving me some trouble, but it was pretty much just the cost of the thermostat, about $10, and a little bit of coolant to top it off, because of course I lost some coolant on the ground taking the thermostat housing off. But yeah, it should give me a pretty good in-cabin heat at this point, and will help keep the engine at operating temperature. That's another thing, is with the thermostat failing, the engine would constantly be running in a less efficient fuel map, if you will. As the coolant warms up, the engine can run more of an economical fuel map as it's at operating temperature. But until it reaches that point, it's going to be running a slightly richer fuel map to help warm the engine up a little bit. So yeah, if your thermostat's going out, you probably will see some you'll probably see a drop in fuel economy numbers until you get it fixed. Anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you learned something here. And if you have a Prius that needs a thermostat replaced, hopefully this will give you the knowledge you need to go ahead and tackle the job yourself. $10 and a little bit of extra coolant for me is definitely worth it, as opposed to taking it into a shop and paying, you know, I couldn't imagine you paying less than $100 or $200 to get this done. But anyways, like this video if you liked it, sub to the channel if you haven't, hit that notification bell, share this video to your friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.